Hey, Jonathan here at Colfax Math. Today I'm going to go over the Apprentice Math Study Guide. This is Colfax Math, all things math. I teach both high school woodshop and math class.
Laminated overnight on a CNC.
Okay, this is the Apprentice Applicant Math Study Guide. It's kind of the same as all standardized math tests. Couple strategies. One is to mark up the test as much as possible, so you don't make any careless mistakes. 2 is to pace yourself. 3 is to go slow enough that you don't make any careless mistakes, remembering that the hardest problem on here has the same weight as the easiest problem. So there's really not, there's really a basics math test. It's measurement, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, decimals, a little bit of rate and percentages. So on measurement, the first thing is to figure out what each little mark means. So it's telling you they're eighths. You count up and it's 4/8, so A is 4/8, and then you reduce that 4/8 to the lowest common denominator, 1/2, because 4 goes in here one time and here twice. B is 1/2/8, right? So this is 1 2/8, or 1 1/4 inches. C is 1 2 3, or 2 3/8, and D is 1/8 before 3, or 2 7/8 of an inch. So I'll put a link to this math study guide in the description. What I would do is I would do the problems first, make sure you get them all right, and then check how I did them afterwards. So, so pause, go ahead and do these 4, and then double check that you have them right. So right here it's showing it 16th. The length of that line will also tell you what the denominator is. So the shortest line is a 16th, the next shortest is an 1/8, then a 1/4, then a 1/2. So I could see this is going to be the second shortest line, so I know it's going to be an 1/8, or 1 2 3/8. So E is 3/8 of an inch, or I could count them 1 2 3 4 5 6 16ths, and then they're both even, they reduce to 3/8. F, the next one is 1 1/16, 1 1/16 of an inch. G right here, here's my 1/2. G's right here, here's my 1/2. So I'm 1/16 beyond a 1/2. A 1/2 is 8/16, and G is 1/16 beyond that, or 1 9/16 of an inch. H, again, I could tell it's going to be a 16th because it's on the shortest line. So it's 3 1 2 3, 3 3/16 of an inch. Okay, the bottom one down here, now I'm in 30 seconds. Make sure you get your glasses on for this one. The shortest line will be 30 seconds. It's 1 beyond that, so it's 1 1/32. And then, so on J right here, we're on the 1/8 inch line. We're measuring 30 seconds. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7/8, right? 7/8, but we're measuring in 30 seconds. So that would be 1 7/8, actually. Yeah, so 1 7/8. And then K is one of the teeniest lines. We're in 30 seconds, so this is my 1/2 line. This is 16 30 seconds, going down 16, 15, 14, 13. So that's 2, 16, 15, 14, 13, 30 seconds. You always have to reduce the fraction. And then on L here, right, we're in 30 seconds. Here's 3, and we're going down 1 2 3, 3 before the whole. So we're at 2 29 30 seconds. And I counted that 1 2 3 from 32 30 seconds. Okay, with all that said, let me go and just check a half, 1 1/4, 2 3/8, Oh, this one right here is wrong. Right, this is G, and it's 2 and 9/16. 2 and 9/16 there. Okay, so there's measurement, and then from measurement, we'll turn the page over to the addition of whole numbers. 9 and 6 is 15. 28 and 6 is 34. Almost impossible to add numbers like this. Got to line them up on top of each other. 7296 plus 4357. Going to add straight down. 6 and 7 is 13. Bring the 10 up here. 1, 9, 10, 15. 3, 2, 6. And then 7 and 4 is 11. So 11,653 is that one. Here I'm just gonna, it's hard to keep track of all of these, so there's a couple ways to do this one. One is you could pair numbers that are gonna add up to things you could figure out, like that 5 and that 5 is a 10. That 6 and the 9 is a 15. And the 2 and the 7 is a 9. Add all those up. 10, 25, 34. This is 34. Same thing here. This is about lining them up in the same order. So I'm going to start with the largest one. 2, 8, 9, 9, plus the next largest one, 768, plus 48, plus 27. And I'm adding those up. I have all my ones in the same place, all my tens in the same place, hundreds and thousands. 9 and 8 is 17. 17 and 8, 25. Plus 7, 32. Let me double check that. Another way to check it is go the opposite way, say. So I have 15, 7 8 is 15. 15 and 8, 23, 32. Carry the 3. 9 and 6 is 15, 19, 21, 24. Carry the 2 up there. 17. Carry the 1, and I get 3742. Okay, so that's addition. It's really more about place value and how you line them up. Go slow and carefully. Subtraction. Similar. Subtraction is the inverse operation of addition, just like division is the inverse of multiplication. So on subtraction, 17 minus 4 is 13. 21 minus 15 is 6. 504 minus 272. That one I have to line up. 504 minus 272. 4 minus 2 is 2. 0 minus 7, I can't do that, so I have to borrow from this 5. So I'm going to borrow 100. This is going to be 400. And this is going to make this a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. And then 4 minus 2 gives me the 232. So C is 232. D here. Same thing, I have to line it up. 6973 minus 3811. No borrowing here. 3 minus 1 is 2. 7 minus 1 is 6. 9 minus 8 is 1. 6 minus 3 is 3. This one's 3162. And then that one as well. This is thousands and this is hundreds. So kind of running out of room here. 2786. Minus 490. Again, I can see I'm going to borrow here when I get to the 8. So the key is that I line up my ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. 6 minus 0, 6. 8 minus 9, I can't do that. I have to borrow. From here, this becomes 600, and this becomes an 18. 18 minus 9 is a 9. 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 minus 2. So this one's 2296. So again, the way I would do these is kind of, you do them first, make sure you understand them, and then hit play, and then watch how I do them if you had any questions on them. So multiplication, now I'm saying I have 2 8s, so this is 16. Here I'm saying 93 times 15. So I have to multiply this out. The way I do long multiplication here, 5 times 3, 15. Carry the 10 up here, 45. Plus the 1 is 46, so 465. And then this one here, long multiplication, I guess I'll do it up here, 609 times 78. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 0 is 0 plus 7. 8 times 6, 48. 7 times 9, 63. 7 times 0, 0 plus 6. 7 times 6, 42. I'm a little crowded there. So when I multiply the ones through, I just multiply and carry. And when I go to the tens over here, I move over one step. So there's a blank there. You remember that. And then I add these together. 2, 7, and 3 is 10. Carrying the 10. 14, 15. Carry the 10, 7. And then I have that 4. So that puts me at 47,502. Okay, down in division here. Division 8 divided by 8 is 1. And what I'm saying is 8 times 1 is 8. 242 divided by 22. Well, 22 times 10 is 220. Plus another, if I have 220 plus another 22 gives me 242. So I could see this is 11, right? 10 and the 1. I'm not sure if that's going to go in there, so I'm going to do long division here. So I have 357 divided by 21. 21 goes into 35 one time. I put it below there. I subtract 4 and 1. 21 into 147 would be 7 would be 140. So this is 7 times 6 is 126 times 7 is 147. So it's 7. So the answer is 17. And then lastly here, 10 is 610. 20, I double it. I don't think I figured that one out, so I got to do some long division here. So I do 1098 divided by 61, and then 61 does not go into 10, so then I go to 109. 61 goes into 109 one time. 9 minus 1 is 8. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4, and I bring down that 8 there. So 61 goes into 488. 8 is 480 plus 8, so it's 8. So the total answer here is 18. This is 18. Okay, so what we've done so far is measurement, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. It takes a lot of practice to get good at these. You gotta just get in the habit of running numbers. It helps to print out a multiplication table, 12 by 12, and then just look at that and practice it. Okay, now we're on to fractions. Change fractions below to halves. So I could see 2 goes into there one time, into there twice. 2 goes into there twice, goes into there 4 times. That's still not a half. Now 2 will go into there once and into there twice. So those are all equivalencies. The whole goal of this is to learn how to reduce fractions. 16 eighths, 8 goes into 16 twice and into itself once. So it's equivalent to 2, or 16 divided by 8. Change the fraction below to eighths. So this is common denominators. I have 1/2. I want to go to eighths. So what do I multiply 2 by to make it an 8? I multiply by 4. I can't just multiply by 4. I have to multiply by 1. right? So I don't change the value of it. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. But now that I have a 4 in the numerator and denominator, I go across the top to get 4 eighths. 3/4 to eighths. I have to multiply it by a 2, or 2 over 2, to give me 6 eighths. 5 halves times what puts me in the eighths. So 4 over 4, or 28ths. Change the fractions below to 64ths. So I have 3/4. I want 64ths. So 8 times what equals 64 times 8. Again, I can't just multiply by 8. I have to multiply by 8 over 8. So that whole thing right there has an equivalency of 1. 24 64ths. I'm going to multiply by 8. 56 64ths. And this one, 12 128. How do I get that to 64ths? I'm going to have to divide by 2. So I'm going to have to divide both the top and the bottom by 2. So half of 12 is 6. Half of 128 gives me the 64. And then lastly right here, reduce to the lowest thing. I'm looking for numbers that go into both of those. 4 goes into the numerator once, into the denominator twice. So that's 1/2, or 4 is half of 8. 12 32nds. 4 goes into here 3 times. 4 goes into here 8 times. And those are as reduced as it could go. 8 64ths. I see 8 goes into 64. So 8 goes into itself once, and a 64 8 times. So that's a reduction or changing of fractions. That's kind of the key skill. When you move on here to the addition of fractions, I won't do all of these, I'll just go over the idea. Before you could add or subtract fractions, you have to have the common denominator. So I have 3/4 plus 5/16. Use another piece of paper so we have some room here. Right? 3/4 plus 5/16. The bottom is my denominator. The top is my numerator. So I have to have the same bottom number, which can be 16. So I multiply this by 4 over 4. This first term becomes 12 over 16 plus 5 over 16. Now that I have that common denominator, I add across the top 17, and I keep the bottom the same, 16. So 7 is 17/16, or 1 1/16. On B here I have 1/3, 2/5, 3/4. So here I got to figure out what all of these will go into. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, boy, 20. 5 and 4 are going to 20, but 3 won't. So I might have to multiply them all together to get 60. So if 60 is my common denominator, how many times do I have to multiply this to get 60? I'm going to have to multiply it by 20. Again, I can't multiply something by 20 without affecting the value. I have to multiply by 20 over 20, which makes it a 1 to then change the value. This I'm going to multiply by 12 over 12 to get a 60. And then this I'm going to have to multiply by 15 over 15 to get a 60. So here I have 20 60ths. Here I have 24 60ths. And here I have 45 60ths. I'm going to add all of them across the numerator to get 44 and 45. 44 and 45 is 89 60ths. And I don't think that could get reduced. You could turn it into an improper, a mixed number, like 60 goes into 89 one time with 29 left over. So those are equivalencies as well. So this one's a little bit easier to add these together. I have a half 3/16 and 3/4. Common denominator is going to be 16, so that one's ready to go. This one I have to multiply by 8/8. This one by nothing, and this one 4/4 to get 16ths. Now I have 8/16 plus 3/16 plus 12/16. Again, adding fractions, I add across the top. 11. 8 plus 3 is 11. Plus 12 is 23. 23/16, keeping the denominator the same. All right, let's move down to subtracting fractions. So subtracting fractions, exact same thing. I have to have a common denominator. I have 3/4 minus 5/16. Denominator is 16, so I'm going to multiply this by 4/4 to get 16. So I have 12/16 minus 5/16. 12 minus 5 is 7, and I keep the denominator the same, 7/16. Fractions are key, but they're not easy. 23/32 minus 3/8. Have to have that common denominator at 32. Multiply this by 4/4. Now I have 23 over 32 minus 12/32. I have that common denominator. 23 minus 12 is 11. I keep that common denominator of 32, so 11/32. Adding and subtracting are the same. Multiplying is actually really easy. Multiplying is easier than adding and subtraction. I have 3/8 times 8. The key here is to know that any number could be a fraction. So that's the same as 8/1. For multiplying, I just multiply right across the top, 24. Multiply right across the bottom, 8. And I get 24/8. Or 8 goes into here once, into here 3 times. So 3/8 times the 8 is 3, because this reduces to 3/1, or just 3. That kind of makes sense too, right? Because if I have 8 3/8, just a little over 2 of them is going to make a full unit, right? So, okay, b 1/2 times 1. Anything times itself is a half. And then here I'm going to turn these from improper fractions, from mixed numbers into improper fractions. The way I do that is I multiply the integer times the denominator and add that to it. So 3 times 8 is 24, plus 7, 31/8, times 2 times 2, 4, plus 1, 5, 5/2. Multiply across the top to get 155/16, 155/16. All right, I'll leave that one for you, and then we'll division of fractions. The way you divide fractions is by multiplying by the reciprocal. What that means is I have this half here, and rather than divide, I'm going to multiply. But rather than use 1/16, I flip it over to 16/1. I could cancel if I want. So 2 goes into here once and into here 8 times. So I get 8/1, or just 8. So again, I have 3/4 divided by 4, or times 1/4, which gives me 3/16. Leave the rest for you. Adding and subtracting decimals. The key to adding and subtracting decimals is line up the points. I have 1.738. Here I have 0.0087, and here I have 7.53. To have them all lined up. Nothing here, nothing here or here. I add straight down to get 7. 16. Carry the 1, 7. 7 and 5 is 12. Carry the 1. I get 9, and that's 9.2767. 9.2767. So adding and subtracting, you have to have the decimals lined up. I'll leave the rest of those for you. And
then multiplication of decimals, I got to keep track of where the decimals are. So multiplication of decimals is a little bit different. Here I have 12.3 times 7.1. I don't even look at the decimal till I'm done, and I just use long multiplication. 1 times 3 times 2, 1 times 1. Placeholder, 7 times 3, 21. Carry the 2, 7 times 2, 14. 15, 16. Carry the 1, 7 plus 1 is 8. I add straight down 3, 3, 7, and 8. And then I look here and I figure out how many places over the decimal is. So here is 1 place over, 1 place over, 2 places over. So I start here and I go 1, 2, and I'm 2 places over 87.33. So that's how I multiply decimals. I'll leave the rest of those to you. Division of decimals, a little bit different. Let me do that one here. I have 39 divided by 0.02. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn this into a 2 by moving this over 1, 2 places. And here's my 39. There's no decimal on it, so it has to be there. And then I move it over 1, 2 places. So when I ask 39, how many times does 0.02 go into 39, is the same thing as saying how many times does 2 go into 3900. So 2 goes into 3 1 time. 3 minus 2 is 1, bring down to 9. 2 goes into 19 9 times, which is 18. 9 minus 8 is 1, bring down to 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Give me exactly 10. And 2 does not go into 0. So 39 divided by 0.02 is 1,950. And again, the division of decimals is you move this over till you get an integer, till it just becomes a number. However many places you move it over that many places here. All right, hopefully I'm not putting you completely to sleep here. Let's run through these last couple: percentage, rate, and base, and then square roots. So 13% of 185. The way I remember this 13%, the way I remember this to convert to a decimal is the decimal's here, just 13. This is saying go this direction 2 places, so go over 1, 2. So 13% is equal to 0.13. And then I have 185 times 0.13. And then this is just multiplication. I do my long multiplication, and then when I'm done, I come over 1, 2 places. 3 times 5, 15. Carry the 1. 24 plus 1, 25. Carry the 2. 5. Placeholder. 1 times 5. 1 times 8. 1 times 1. I add those up to get 5. 10. Carry the 1. 13, 14. Carry the 1, 2. And I'm over 1, 2 decimal places. So that puts me at 21, 2. 24.05. All right, lastly, square roots. What this little square right here means is take that number and multiply it by itself. So 5 squared is equal to 5 times 5, or 25. 25 squared is 625. And then these are the exact opposite of squares. These are called the square root. This is saying multiply itself, multiply this number by itself, so 5 times 5. This is saying the opposite, or the inverse. What times itself equals 64? So you need to know your multiplication tables. 8 times 8, 64. And that's what a square root and a square is. All right, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully that wasn't too long.